Today we're going to make a traditional 9-patch. I'm going to use a 2 colorway, but you can make it as scrappy as you want. To start, you're going to make 3 strips. It can be the width of your fabric or however much material you need. I have, I think, a 13-inch strip just for the purpose of the video. Once you get your 3 strips in each color, you're going to arrange them every other. And you're going to do a section of 3. And then you'll do another section that's opposite. So your centerpiece in the first one will now be your edge pieces, and your edge pieces in the first one becomes your center. Once you have your 2 sections, you're going to sew down each seam, and we'll go sew. So once you have your 2 strips sewn together, when you put your 3rd strip on, you want to make sure that you're laying it so that your seam will be on the back side. So you're arranging it right on top just like that, and then when you open it up, your seam will be on the back and your strip will be in the middle. And same thing with the other one. You want to make sure that you're doing opposite. So you'll lay it right on top, and then you can always pretend to open it up to double check. Now that you have 2 pieces that are opposites and sewed together, we're going to press. Now that you're ready to press, you want to be aware of which way you're pressing your seams. So first you're going to set your seams just to make sure they hold nice and settle in. And that's just by applying some heat to them. And you'll do that to each one. And then when you're ready to press, you'll press one section so that your seam both go the same direction. So they'll both go to the right and to the right, and then your other one, that will both go to the left and to the left. So we'll do one at a time. So they're both going the same direction, and then same thing with this one. But we're going to be opposite. There you go. So you can see these seams are going this way and these seams are going the opposite. And now we're ready to cut our sections apart into smaller sections to sew back together. You're going to give yourself a nice seam or cut line to go from. So you'll line up your one side and your other side to make sure that you're cutting a nice square section. And these are scrap. And then you'll swip it around if you're right-handed. And I cut my pieces at 1.5 inches, my beginning strips. So I'm going to cut the same thing, a 1.5 inch strip from each section. And you can continue doing this for however many pieces you need, or you can cut your entire section. We're going to do 2 different kinds. So the rest of this I can save for later, or I can continue cutting. Once you have your pieces cut, you'll arrange them so that they go every other. So I'll have 2 blocks that are opposites, or you can continue cutting if you want them all the same. Once you get them cut, we're going to sew them back together. Once you get closer to your sewing machine, you'll want to double check your seams. So I usually pretend like I sewed it together down the seam, and then I double check that my seams are going opposite directions. So if I were to pretend like I pressed this out, the seam here is going towards me and the seam is going away from me. And then you'll open it up and pretend like you sewed this one down and make sure it's going opposites as well. And then you're safe to sew, and when you are ready to press again, it'll go smoothly. So you just have to start sewing, and as you go, you'll want to nestle your seams together so they lay opposite, and then your points will match up at the end. And you'll do the same thing with this side. You'll lay it right on top and sew right down. And you can pin your seam intersections if you want. So there's one block, and then you'll sew the next one. Matching your seams, and then you can start sewing and match them as you go. Once you have two blocks that are opposites, we're going to press again. I'm going to press them open so that they lay flatter and don't have as much bulk, and then when they go to long arm it, it's easier for the machine to penetrate through all of the seams. You can set your seams as well, just to begin with. And then you're going to press from the back side, making sure that you get half of the seam on one side and half of the seam on the other side. You'll take the point of your iron and kind of nestle it in between there, and then hold it for a few seconds and do the same on the opposite seam. Now you can flip it over and give it a little extra pressure to help settle everything into those open seams from the top side. Now it lays nice and flat. And what you can do next, if you prefer, you can double check your size and trim it to the true size that you need your block to be. Mine would be a finished 3-inch block, so I would trim it to 3.5 to allow for the 1/4-inch seam. So if you're going to trim, like this block here, I have a little bit extra hanging off the edge. You can check your size by laying your ruler at your 3.5 that you need it to be. And then you can trim. You'll trim the side and the top and do the same thing. Rotate and trim 3.5 and 3.5. And then you're ready to sew it into rows or match it with other 9x9 blocks. Or you can match it with charm squares if you make them 5 inches. It's up to you. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments or contact Nebraska Quilt Company.